What's next doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen by chance. What's next happens when experience meets expertise, when data meets dollars, and when steel meets earth. What's next happens when the promising work of Pioneer's state-of-the-art research centers meets the unsparing challenges of more than 17,000 on-farm trials. Our ultimate goal is to bring the next seed breakthrough to your fields, because Pioneer isn't just our name, it's our mission. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
This RealAg Radio podcast is brought to you by Barricade 2 herbicide from FMC. Barricade 2 herbicide destroys tough broadleaf weeds like narrow-leaved hawksbeard, cleavers, night flowering catchfly, and kochia without compromising the safety of your cereal crop. Barricade 2 herbicide. Tough on weeds, gentle on crops.
It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio.
Hello and welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio, Channel 147, Sirius XM. I am your host for the day, Lyndsey Smith. And it is Thursday, which means Farmer Rapid Fire brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. So this week, who are you going to hear from? We've got Nic Dubuc out of Quebec who will be joining us. Then we're going to head on over to Ontario, speak with Josh Boersen. We'll jump to my home province, the Keystone province of Manitoba. We're talking with Aaron Hargreaves out of Brandon. And then we hop to Alberta. Sorry, Saskatchewan, we'll have to get you on next week. We're going to Bentley, Alberta, and we've got Jason Lenz joining us as well. So that's the lineup. And of course, stick around for the end of the show. We've got your Pioneer Seeds Canada rep. We've got Jenna Gregoire who's going to join me at the end to wrap it all up, talk about what's on farmers' minds this week and what's on an agronomist's mind as well. All right. If you've got any feedback on today's show, or if you would like to be part of the Farmer Rapid Fire, we've got a fantastic list. I love hearing from everyone, but you know what? We always are taking new names because we just like to hear from so many different parts of the country. So especially on the East, we've got a couple of East Coasters, but if you're in the East, or you really want to be on the show, you know what? Let's phrase it a different way. If you know someone who should be on this show, who you just think does really cool stuff and frankly would make time for us every couple of weeks, get in touch with us. Give us a call, 1-855-776-6147. Or, of course, you can zip me an email, lsmith@realagriculture.com. Or just, find us across social media at RealAgriculture. We've got a YouTube channel. We're on X. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We are easy to find. Send us a DM, nominate your neighbor, and we'll get them on the show. Okay, let's take a quick break, and I will be back with our first farmer on the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, right after this.
Does your N stabilizer contain an active ingredient load high enough to be agronomically effective? If not, it could be costing you time and money. If you're putting down a nitrogen stabilizer, put your trust in Koch Agronomic Services. Solutions like Super U, Tribune, and Anvil. Each delivers high active ingredient concentrations that low-rate products just can't match. Compare how imitator products stack up to agronomically effective solutions at defendyourn.ca.
The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com is your one-stop shop for everything a canola grower needs. Check out our free video series on YouTube for all the latest in canola agronomy, research, marketing, and more. Don't have time to watch? Download the podcast version of the Canola School on RealAgriculture.com or anywhere you download your podcasts. Stay on top of all things canola with the Canola School on RealAgriculture.com, brought to you by BASF and Invigor Hybrid Canola.
CDC Endure is a new oat line from Alliance Seed. High yielding with excellent disease resistance and the quality end users ask for, all in one great oat variety. CDC Endure provides the high beta-glucan levels to make heart-healthy products like breakfast cereals. For more information on CDC Endure oats, as well as any other products from Alliance Seed, check out allianceseed.com or visit any Alliance Seed authorized retailers.
to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio, Channel 147. It is Thursday, March 21st, and I am your host, Lyndsey Smith. And Thursdays are for farmers. Yes, the Farmer Rapid Fire brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. All right, we head now. Well, we would be heading to Quebec. We're going to talk to a Quebec farmer, but Nic Dubuc, you are not in Quebec.
No, I'm currently traveling out west, so sitting in an airport right now. For a change.
Yeah, for a change. All right, a little bit different, but so thanks for taking the time out of the day. But you, of course, you're not far from where I am. What are things looking like on the farm this week? Were you just about ready to get planting and then decided to stop, or how does it look?
Well, we've had literally no snow most of the winter, so that's been kind of a strange winter. And I'd say when I was planning this trip a couple of weeks ago, I was really wondering whether it was a good idea or not because, it was warm, no snow on the ground, things were drying out. So I was kind of wondering, would we be able to get some barley planted or something before the end of March, maybe freeze, seeding on frost or something. Mm-hmm. So I was a little worried, but things changed. We did get a little bit of snow during the last few days, not a lot. It's definitely cooler, which I'm not necessarily too disappointed with because I think alfalfa and winter cereals, we're getting close to getting started, growing again. So
and it's a little early.
Exactly. Usually starting this early, I would assume we're going to pay for it later.
Yeah, exactly. I think you and I think the same. Now, as you mentioned, really didn't get a winter of an average of any kind. How have the cows fared? Has it been tough on them, or have they fared okay through it?
They fared okay through it. That hasn't been an issue. Really, our biggest concern with this winter, and I guess we've had winters with little snow before, but never this bad, was really, like alfalfa, winter cereals, that type of stuff where no snow cover is one thing, but then if it gets really cold, that's when, it could really cause a lot of trouble. So we were lucky because there wasn't much snow, but there also wasn't much cold. It never got super cold like we would usually get sometime in February or March, early March. So
yeah, that is definitely the concern when you've got exposed plants and then get a lot of cold. That can be a bit iffy, a bit scary. I'm glad to hear the cows have done well. Yeah. I know that sometimes, the swings in temperature, et cetera, can be tough on livestock, but glad to hear they've done okay. Now, as you mentioned, a return maybe to cooler temperatures and maybe, slowing things down a little bit. But what have you been working on and getting ready for spring and for real spring, not false spring, for real spring?
Well, right now, I guess it's still a bit too early to select which of my 4 different rotation plans are going to happen. Because we basically, because of those crops that have to make it through winter, I have 4 plans from, perfect winter to the worst possible winter, right, and then moving things around. So I haven't been there yet where we're making a call on, do we have to scrap some alfalfa fields or something like that. But it's definitely going to get closer when I get back home. And then right now we're kind of thinking about also modifying our crop rotation this year because commodity prices being lower, we might actually cut on corn acres and try to grow maybe a little bit more beans or crops where we'll be able to do land improvement. Because corn's been so low, we could probably end up buying it for cheaper than it costs us to grow it. So at this point, maybe we're going to move things around a little bit in terms of crop rotation.
So is that tiling?
That's still on the table.
Yeah, is that tiling you want to get done? You want to get some ground tiles?
Yeah, we're thinking about maybe tiling some ground, depending on the spring conditions, maybe even this spring, before maybe going with beans a little later. And then definitely after cereal crops, we might do a little bit more cereal crops to do some land leveling as well.
So now
we're going to work on I guess land improvement because we had so much rain last year. Yeah, it really showed some of the weaknesses with surface drainage and subsurface drainage as well.
Yeah, well, and so let's call that one of the good things of having excess water is you figure out where it collects. and so where you need to focus your attention. So that works.
And we had a great season last year to make that happen.
Exactly.
Because we got so much rain during the summer, during the fall as well. And that was probably the one positive thing I would say about this winter is I haven't looked at the precipitation numbers, but I would assume that we were lower than normal, which is really something we probably needed given the amount we got last year.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I like that, especially because you have forage and rotation, you sort of have to be flexible on your cropping plan, right? On average, do most crops, like your alfalfa, your winter cereals, et cetera, do you expect that, a certain amount of fields per year don't make the cut in the spring, or is it really an absolute year-by-year basis?
Well, I'd say it's mostly a year-by-year basis. I mean, last few years have been really good. We haven't had any issues with winter kill, with winter cereals or alfalfa for the last, I want to say, since 2020. So it's been easy to work with our crop rotation. We still plan on, replacing some alfalfa fields every year just to have younger stands and might make it through better if you have a tough winter. But we have a plan to replace some, but then after that, it's a year by year. We could end up having to reseed 50% of our alfalfa, for example. So it's not something we're hoping for, but it could happen.
Yeah, definitely better to be prepared than surprised on this one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And that's why I ended up with 4 different crop plans.
Yeah, which I love that. I do that too. I like scenarios. I like to know, like, if this, then what? For your alfalfa stands, do you have sort of a rule of thumb as far as how many years you leave it in ideally? I mean, recognizing things change, but do you sort of have every, X amount of years we take it out and redo it?
I'd say if we make it 4 years, including the establishment year, usually we're pretty happy. Mm-hmm. If it looks really good, we might try to stretch it one additional year. And, if you go back before 2020, I think we are averaged probably close to 3 years at best with a stand. So it was a bit tougher. We changed the way we establish a crop. We have a better drill now, and it does seem to make a difference. Some varieties as well, but it's you never know.
Yeah. I heard, so Christine O'Reilly, who's the OMAFRA specialist here for forage and grazing, she said, think about it in terms of cuts versus years. On the alfalfa stand, about 10 cuts, if you think about it that way. So obviously, if you only take 2 cuts a year, it'll probably last that much longer, but then you're only getting 2 cuts a year. And I'd never really thought about it from the perspective of how many times you cut it. It's kind of cool.
And it does make, when you look at it, it does make quite a bit of sense.
Yeah.
The one thing we're kind of on the fence right now is for the past few years, I guess since 2020 or even before that, we were trying to do 4 cuts a year.
Yeah.
But, we're right at the limit where 4 cuts make sense, but 3 also makes sense. So, 3 cuts, you do have to extend it. You have longer intervals. We grow low lignin alfalfa now.
Yep.
So it's definitely easier to deal with that situation. But then 4 cuts can be a bit of a stretch. You have to start really early. You can't really cut after mid-September. So it's, if anything goes wrong, you end up too late. So before last year, we were at 4 cuts a year. Last year we did 3. We're not sure yet this year what we're going to do. We're probably going to look at spring, how the crop's growing, and then decide from there. Does it make more sense, 3 or 4?
Yep, that makes sense. All right. Before I let you go, I have to ask you the question of the week. For you, what is the real sign that spring is officially here? What to you is, all right, now it's spring? What has to happen?
Oh, that's, I'd say go walk in the field and not have mud on my boots.
There you go.
If you can actually walk in the field and it doesn't all stick to your boots.
All right.
The real spring is here. You're getting close to doing something.
All right. Okay. I like it. Okay. Nic, safe travels.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, let's take a quick break here from the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, and we'll be back with our hop over to Ontario right after this.
Want a product that will give you nitrogen all season long? Then you want to try Envita. Envita gets directly into the cells of the plants, and it's easy to apply, foliar or in furrow. Envita provides the flexibility you need for your farm practices. Whether you want to reduce your nitrogen and maintain yield, or maintain your nitrogen and increase yield, Envita fits your farm. Envita SC formulation is OMRI registered. To learn more about Envita, visit azotic.com. That's AZOTIC.com.
Before you get back in the field this year, spend some time with the Corn School on RealAgriculture.com. Get all the information you need on hybrid selection, planting depth, crop inputs, and more from a wide range of industry experts. A massive library of video content is available on demand when you need it most. Spend your time outside of the field, inside the classroom, with the Corn School on RealAgriculture.com.
Peter Johnson at Wheat Pete, RealAgriculture.com, and what an opportunity! Oh my gosh! You think you can't grow better wheat? You are absolutely wrong. We're going to show you how to strive for those record wheat yields that they get in the UK and in New Zealand. You can grow 150 bushel wheat. I'll show you how.
Catch Wheat Pete's Word every Wednesday on RealAgriculture.com or download the podcast on iTunes or Spotify.
To RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio Channel 147. I am your host, Lyndsey Smith. It is March 21st. It is the Farmer Rapid Fire, of course, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. For more than 90 years, Pioneer has developed and tested products to meet your local challenges. With new Z-Series soybeans, new Optimum Glide canola, top-performing corn products, and industry-leading traits and technologies to maximize yield potential, Pioneer's on-the-ground teams can help you get the right products for your fields. Visit pioneer.com/Canada to learn more. As promised, let's head on down to Ontario, and we're catching up with Josh Boersen. It's been a busy week.
Yeah, at least so far to kick it off. I'm looking forward to getting back to the farm here at the end of this week, actually. So March Classic this week with Grain Farmers of Ontario. How did the meeting go? I heard the Premier made an appearance. He certainly did, and I would say we were ecstatic to have the Premier show up. It's actually quite unusual for a Premier to attend our event, and we had really, really great attendance as well. I think over 800 or maybe even 850 people in attendance, which is maybe not a record, but certainly one of the better attended classics we've had.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And I did get the sense that people were quite surprised, pleasantly surprised to have the Premier show up.
I would say yes, that many were. To have that support in Queen's Park is really important for agriculture, and that the Premier would take time to come certainly, I think, buoyed some spirits, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. We've got his speech that he gave is on the website already. They put it on YouTube, so we've got it there if anybody's curious and wants to go check that out. But otherwise, you did mention, of course, you do want to get back to the farm. We are what, 2/3, 3/4 of the way through March? Does that mean you've got everything ready to roll and you're just waiting for the calendar to flip and off you go, Josh? Or are you biding your time and being patient?
Well, we're not biding our time. We've still got a list of things to look after, but we are looking forward to spring to come. Actually talking today about the potential for maybe getting a little fertilizer on the wheat if Mother Nature cooperates, though I've heard that we might be into some snow squalls at home. So once I leave sunny London, I'm going to find out just what we're in for when I get there.
Mm-hmm. So maybe some early field passes happening. I have heard maybe some frost seeding of oats has happened, maybe a little nitrogen or sulfur on the wheat for sure. But what would be an average start date for your farm at home?
If you're talking about like planting or seeding, I guess, Lyndsey, we probably don't get started until the 1st of May on average. This year, A week ago I would have said we would be ahead by a little bit, but the forecast for this week again kind of turning a little colder and more snow, so we may still be just right on time. March has kind of come in mild, so as the adage goes, we might be in for some lie-in here yet.
Mm-hmm. I would prefer not, if you could. But we don't get much say. But I think you're probably right. I think we've probably sort of skidded back a bit more to average for temps and overnight lows, etc. Do you have a lot of mechanic stuff to do? A lot of once-overs on the planner to do? Is that still on the docket?
I think our corn planter is ready to go, and our current drill or seeder is also ready to go, but I have ordered a new one that we would like to use, but I'm told it won't be here till mid to late April, which might throw a wrench in the plans if spring does come early. We actually are going to assemble that ourselves. With the sprayer, we decided this winter to put a boom recirculation kit on it, try and work on our stewardship a little bit there. So I have to finish that project when I get home.
That is very cool. So what was the sort of push to make the call and get that put on the sprayer?
The kit we found had some kind of good reviews from Jason DeVoe, our sprayer specialist here in Ontario. And I've been intrigued by the concept for a couple of years, and the cost was not so unreasonable. It's been on my kind of watch list or hit list, if you will, for about a couple of years, and I finally decided that maybe now would be a good time to do that.
Mm-hmm. No, that sounds good. And if Jason's going to vouch for it, it means that if something isn't working, you can call him. That's what that means.
Right. I will tell him that you said that, too, when I call him in frustration, if there is such an occasion.
Yes, please do. And he will let me know, I'm sure, very quickly thereafter. Okay, but a new drill would be pretty exciting, but as you said, it may not end up early enough. How much time do you want to give yourself with something as important as a planter or seeder? How much time do you want to fine-tune it, get it right? Like, if it doesn't show up till late April, are you going to roll it out, or are you going to wait?
We probably will still try and roll it out. It's pretty rare that we're able to get our beans planted that early where we are. There is the occasion, of course, but the technology that we need to run that drill, I'm actually going to be getting shortly, I hope, and the plan is to get it into the tractor and operational and make sure that we got kind of a lot of hopefully the hiccups worked out before the seeder arrives. We might even have some of the technological part of the seeder a little bit earlier than the actual just mechanical parts, which hopefully don't give us a lot of grief. But, I don't know if we have a set amount of time we would commit to having things ahead of time. The last time we built a piece of equipment, it was just a cultivator, I guess, but it had some technology on it, and I think we used it 2 days after we finished putting it together. So it'll just depend on what Mother Nature does.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. But I have like secondhand stress for anybody I know getting a new to them piece of equipment, whether it's brand new or not. There is that learning curve of like settings or, exactly that, the technology so it talks to the unit or all those sorts of things. And I get like, oh goodness, it's such a stressful time of year anyway. So I'm glad you can just take that in stride, because I don't.
Well, I have had to teach myself a little bit of that, because lately it seems if I don't take it in stride, I'd go the other way, and that's really probably not good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's wise words there, Josh. Okay, so I am asking everyone this week, this is my question of the week, we are now officially, according to the calendar and the powers that be, in spring. Okay, so it is officially spring. But we all know that, what the weather does really is what brings in spring really for us. What really means it is spring to you? Is there a particular, plant or a feeling or a noise or an event? What is the particular thing for you that means, yes, it is spring?
It might not sound pleasant to some, I suppose, but probably the smell of manure flying pretty well calls spring for us, because we're in a livestock area. So when that starts happening, you know that planting's right around the corner.
I I like it. I'll be honest. I'm a big fan of manure, but B, you're right. It may not be the most pleasant smell, but as my dad used to say, it's the smell of money, because it is like money in the bank putting that manure on. Yes. Okay. I like it. So the smell of manure, I'll mark it down. You let me know what that day is, and we'll see if it's officially spring. All right, Josh, thanks so much for joining me on the Farmer Rapid Fire.
Thanks, Lyndsey. You have a great day.
You too. Take care. All right, let's head now to Manitoba, and we're on the line with Aaron Hargreaves from near Brandon, Manitoba. Welcome here, Aaron. How are you doing today?
I am doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Okay, so what's keeping you busy these days on the farm?
Not all that much, actually. Probably mostly kids hockey, but that's kind of coming to an end. So, we've been working on some stuff in the shop over the winter and hauling grain. It's freezing up again here now. The roads have been pretty bad the last couple of weeks, but now back to some pretty cold highs, and the roads are getting better. So hauling grain will probably resume again. And otherwise, we're just waiting for it to get a little warmer before we can get some of the bigger equipment out and start, just go through it and make sure it's all ready for spring. But probably not the busiest. We've had more work to do other springs, I guess, is what I would say. Definitely still a lot to do before you start seeding. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for grain movement, how has this winter sort of stacked up versus others? Are you behind? Are you right on time? Where are you sitting?
I'd say we're probably pretty average. Maybe a little more corn sold than average for this time of year, but no, we've moved out, I guess half or more of all our commodities. So, pretty normal, I guess.
Okay, pretty average. That's good. Yep. I would think. I think that there's quite a few people who maybe didn't have a very busy shipping season, so that's good to hear. I
won't lie to you. We didn't get it all sold at the highs.
Does anyone? I mean, really, let's be honest.
It wasn't our best job of grain marketing this year. There's no doubt.
You are not alone in that camp, Aaron. I'll tell you that much. I think there's a lot of people kicking themselves for maybe not having sold when they could have, but that's hindsight for you. Anything major or big changes for the seeding lineup this year, or you pretty much got your crop rotation set?
Yeah, we don't make tons of changes. Generally we do a third of the farm to wheat, a third to canola, and a third to beans, whether that be soybeans or edible beans. Probably the only major change would be just more edible beans and less soybeans than normal. No corn this year, at least not as of right now, which sometimes we grow it, sometimes we don't. So, but no, other than that, other than the edible beans and soybeans, just moving a few acres between them, it's going to be pretty much the same.
And is that a purely economic sort of decision as far as which one pencils out, or do you prefer growing edible beans, or is it really just about the profit potential for this year?
I don't think anyone prefers growing edible beans over soybeans.
No.
Soybeans are certainly a lot easier to grow and more consistent yielding. But some pretty attractive edible bean prices compared to, obviously if we'd locked in a bunch of soybeans a year ago for new crop, maybe we wouldn't be saying that, but we didn't. So edible bean prices they're just better. And I guess we did switch combines this year to combines that can have a little more capacity in the edible beans. So I don't think that's usually a big restraint for us is harvesting them. I'm hoping it's going to be a little better this year. Time will tell.
Mm-hmm. Now, corn, you said sort of shows up in the rotation and sometimes not. What's the deciding factor there? Again, is it profitability or rotation? What makes the decision on corn?
Oh, you know what? It actually pencils out pretty decent compared to some of the other crops. Probably the biggest thing is, I just said we did switch combines, and we don't have a corn header as of right now, which is a bit of a problem. So And I don't know if you've looked at the price of new corn headers, but it's atrocious. And,
yeah.
You know, like it's a lot of money to put out there for a corn header for, you know, a small amount of acres. And, you know, on the other hand, it is nice. It's nice being done harvest before the ground's frozen and there's snow on the ground. You know, this last fall was great for corn. That, you know, rarely happens 2 years in a row. So, yeah, just a few different things, I guess. Mm-hmm. But certainly, you know, not a whole lot of used corn headers out there for the combines we got, and the ones that are out there are priced pretty high. You know, supply and demand, I guess, and there's not many available. Prices are high, and new ones are crazy expensive. So, I guess we'll stick to wheat. And honestly, our wheat yields have been pretty good the last few years. It's not like the profitability has been a big spread. Hardly enough to really cover the risk, I guess, is part of the problem too.
I think for farmers outside of Western Canada, I think sometimes it's hard to recognize one of the benefits of having lots of crops to grow is you have lots of options. But the other issue is exactly as you've outlined, you have to have the equipment that can work for all these different crops. And when you change one piece of equipment, you might have to change a whole bunch of other things. So I don't think you're alone on that one either. Headers are very pricey, and having several of them or having to buy several new ones in a year that's a tall order.
Yeah, even one corn header. Well,
yeah, exactly.
They are a lot more than you're a lot more in your MacDons or flex heads or, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, rightfully so, probably when you look at a corn header and look at the amount of steel and the moving parts, and obviously a very complicated, expensive piece of equipment to probably to build. So
yeah, they're terrifying.
Just the way it is.
Yeah, they terrify me completely.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, there's the amount of moving parts and gearboxes and stuff.
Exactly.
It's frightening for sure.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, so my question of the week, and I'm glad to hear you're having a relatively chill week, which is kind of nice. But it is, of course, the beginning of spring, officially. According to the calendar, whatever the temperature is outside is irrelevant at this point, because the calendar says it is so. But I want to know for you, what would you say is the sure sign that spring has arrived? What for you is like, yep, okay, this is spring, we're rolling?
Well, I say spring has arrived. Kind of, I guess there's a creek that runs on the north side of the Brandon Hills. And when it's moving, then I'd say spring has officially arrived. It's not yet. We were pretty warm last week, but we've cooled right off again here now. And really, if you look even 10 days out, we hardly have, I don't know if we have any days that are above freezing. So spring has slowed right down here. You know, our fields are still probably 85% covered with snow. And, you know, it doesn't really look like, you know, we're probably hoping for an average seeding start date at this point, just looking at the forecast and snow in the fields. I think, you know, if we get an average start date, that would probably be good. You know, we might be looking at another late start here, especially if we get any more precipitation.
Yeah, so are you on the wet side?
Time will tell. I wouldn't say we're on the wet side. I think the ground will soak up a bunch once it starts to thaw out a little bit. But no, we just had a good snow near the end of the winter, and we just haven't had enough warm temperatures to melt it. No, I don't think we're wet. If anything, our subsoil is we'll be needing rain throughout the summer for sure. Our subsoil is probably drier than average, I would say.
All right. Well, we still have a goodly amount of time between now and May 1. So if 10 days doesn't look good, let's hope the 14-day forecast starts to look better, and you'll have plenty of time to get rid of that snow and get that creek running. We'll hope anyway.
Yeah, there's lots of time, and you know, a couple warm weeks can really change things. But yeah, it's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with an average start date. I like it when it's early, but that's probably, you know, it's just unlikely at this point, I would say.
All right. Okay, Aaron, we'll leave you to it. Have a great week. Thanks for joining me on the Farmer Rapid Fire.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. We've got one more stop for our farmers. We're headed to Alberta right after this.
What's next for your fields? At Pioneer, delivering industry-leading genetics drives everything we do. From the scientists in the lab to our local teams with boots on the ground. We are determined to get there first. Developing top-performing products, proven in more growing conditions than ever before. Pioneer. What's next happens here. Visit pioneer.com/Canada to learn more.
Hi, I'm Bernard Tobin, host of the Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com. Throughout the year, on the Soybean School, we'll bring you timely agronomic video content from planting to harvest, from the latest agronomic research to the latest in production technology. Check out our massive video library on YouTube, RealAgriculture.com, or download the audio podcast versions wherever you get your podcasts. The Soybean School is brought to you by BASF and Syngenta Canada.
To RealAg Radio here on this Thursday. I am your host, Lyndsey Smith, and it is the Farmer Rapid Fire brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. We head now to Bentley, Alberta, or thereabouts, and we've got Jason Lenz on the line. Jason, how are you?
Real good this morning, Lyndsey. Some snow coming down here in central Alberta, and that's definitely a welcome sight leading into spring.
Yeah, absolutely. How has the winter been for moisture?
Probably, you know, I'm kind of in west central Alberta, so we did still have some snowpack on our fields before the storm, but you know, probably a little bit less snow than normal, and we're certainly aware that our soil moisture is lower than what it normally is as well too.
Mm-hmm. So going into the winter, we're a little dry then.
Yeah, for sure. We are. And for this part of the world, for us to be talking about it being dry, I know how dry it is in southern Alberta, so and other parts of Western Canada for that matter. So it's the last couple of years have definitely been, you know, we're kind of going through that dry cycle and you know, looking for some spring moisture here. Get the crops off to a good start.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are some of the things that you've done on your farm in this dry cycle to try and conserve moisture?
Well, what we've found is that, you know, number one, when you're conserving moisture, you got to kind of limit the amount of tillage you're doing for sure. In this area of the province, there is still some tillage that's happening, you know, mostly to deal with the amount of residue that we get from our crops here. That's probably the main reason for it. But the last couple of years, guys are, you know, even going much more reduced levels of tillage and with the awareness that, you know, things are drying up, especially some of that, you know, deeper moisture that we usually always have, it's disappearing. So have to conserve everything that we can.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Now, what is in the crop mix for you for 2024?
Not a whole lot different for us this year. We're growing both malt barley and a little bit of feed barley this year. All of our wheat is going to be CPS wheat again this year, and some canola. So kind of a three-way rotation, and you know, hoping next year I got my eyes on getting back into faba beans a little bit more, and I definitely would like to add that fourth crop to our rotation, especially a crop like faba beans that you know, has the advantage of you know, putting some nitrogen back in the soil as well.
Mm-hmm. Faba beans actually do a really good job of fixing in and leaving it.
They do, and they have, and we've grown them in the past, and they've done really well here because of the moisture that we do get, almost to the point of them being too tall. But they're very easy to harvest, and you know, like I said, protein levels are always quite high, and we've been able to get pretty decent yields on them here in this part of the province as well.
So has moisture been the limiting factor of why you haven't been growing them, or has it been trying to find a market for them that's been the challenge?
It's more the marketing side for sure. I'd love to see some more fractionation plants that would go up that could actually do or will be doing faba beans. I know a lot of the focus has been on peas, but I think if we could get some of that processing here in Alberta or even just more in Western Canada, I think fava beans is a crop that would really take off.
Mm-hmm. They are, I will say this, they are really fascinating to look at. As you said, they can be very tall. They can be a very big plant, but they're, I'm sorry, but they're ugly seeds. Do you find this? I just find them kind of ugly.
Yeah, I know. The first year we grew them, my wife was, every time she'd drive by, she said, "That's sure." I had no idea fava beans looked like that and how pretty they were with the white flowers. And then September rolled along and they started drying down and turned into these burnt. They look like burnt bean poles just standing there and all brown and black looking. And it ended up, they didn't look very nice, but they sure are easy to harvest. So
yeah, absolutely. And as you said, really high protein. They definitely have a fit. But it definitely a caution there, right? Is that there has to be a market for them, not something you want to grow on spec. I have a question also about, you mentioned you grow malt barley and feed barley. If you can grow malt, why are you growing feed?
Well, we do have a few cattle around our farms. We do need, we do need some barley to feed them, but we've been growing feed barley here for quite a while, and certainly reduced the amount of acres that we've done in the past. But some of these newer varieties that have came out in the last 5 years, a variety like Sirish or Esma, they're actually European varieties that are the yield advantage of them is way higher than what we have right now in Canadian varieties. And our Canadian varieties, including our malt varieties, came a long ways in improving yield for sure. But, some of these Sirish yields and Esma yields that we're getting here in Alberta, they're up in the 130s, 140s, and I've even heard 150s. So just to have that yield advantage, and obviously you don't have to put quite as much nitrogen or fertilizer on barley. So it's just, in the last number of years, it's really penciled out well. And obviously, barley prices have came down over the last 8 months here, 10 months for sure. But we want to stay in the game because we like this Sirish variety so much.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's very sound reasoning. And frankly, it's the pocketbook matters, right? If it pencils out and you can grow really good yields, then why wouldn't you? So
that's right.
And all the beer drinkers, thank you for growing malt barley. So there you go. There's that too. Now, you did mention some cattle around, so that's at this time, well, in the last 18 months anyway, a good idea. But when it's dry, definitely a challenge. My question, and maybe it's new calves, who knows, but my question of the week is, what is, for you, a sure sign that spring has sprung?
Oh, wow. Well, right off the top of my head, 2 days ago, the water was really running down the ditches here because we were having the temperatures of 13 or 14 degrees. So, it filled up our dugout again just in those 2 or 3 days that the water started running. And like I said, up until then, we still had pretty good snow cover on our fields. And now yesterday there was quite a few bare spots. So that's always a sign of spring. And it's funny, every year, every year you go out in one particular morning and you almost smell spring in the air. And I think on Monday morning, this past Monday morning, it might have been that morning for me this year. It just had that spring feel to it.
Mm-hmm. It's fascinating, isn't it, that there's like a certain point where one day it's either the birds sound different or the air smells different or, the dugout or the water's running. There's just something that sort of flips and it feels different.
You mentioned birds, Lyndsey, and we placed a round bale in our dugout for the geese to nest on, and sure enough, over this past weekend, Mama Goose was staking claim to that bale. So another sign of spring.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, and right on time. It is officially spring, so that's good, and we'll hope that we get a couple of those showers as they come through. But enjoy the snow while it lasts. Let's put it that way. That's still moisture too.
Yeah, for sure. I always think of especially my friends and farmer friends in southern Alberta who are so desperate for moisture there and need those reservoirs filled for the irrigation as well. I'm probably most happy that it seems like this storm is going to get a big chunk of southern Alberta, which is good.
Yep, absolutely. We'll take more of it. All right, Jason, we'll leave you to it. Have a great week.
Thanks, Lyndsey. You too. Appreciate it.
All right, it's time for our last break. We're headed to our final segment of today's show, and you're going to hear from Jenna Gregoire with Pioneer Seeds Canada right after this.
Get all the information you need to keep your pulse crop healthy and profitable with the Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com. The Pulse School is a free YouTube video series covering agronomy, research, and more across a host of different pulse crops. It's also available as an audio podcast wherever you download or stream your favorite podcast. Check us out on YouTube or visit RealAgriculture.com. The Pulse School, brought to you by BSF Canada.
I'm Lyndsey Smith from RealAgriculture.com. Join me Monday nights for The Agronomist, a 1-hour live and interactive show broadcast across YouTube, Facebook, and X. Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, I host expert agronomists from all over the country to give you answers to some of the toughest agronomic questions. Join us live or catch the replay Tuesday morning. That's The Agronomist with me, Lyndsey Smith, Monday nights live at 8 p.m. Eastern. All right, welcome back to RealAg Radio here on this Thursday. It is the Farmer Rapid Fire brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. And joining me now is Jenna Gregoire. Jenna, how are you today?
I'm great, Lyndsey. How are you?
I'm doing well. Now tell us, where are you based? Where's your territory?
So I'm based out of North Battleford, Saskatchewan, and I cover Northwest Sask and as well as Central West Sask. So kind of a big chunk of Central and Northern Saskatchewan.
And did you get the moisture this
week?
We
did.
Yahoo!
We did get the moisture. I will tell you, morale around me went from 0 to about 100 pretty darn fast with that snowstorm.
Good.
And then, of course, everybody complained about too much snow.
Right.
But
exactly.
Great.
But we're allowed. Yeah. We reserve the right to do such things.
Yeah. If you live in Canada, you get to. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. So we are now officially spring according to the calendar, but yes, it's a little white outside, but we're just that much closer to the seeding season, to getting rolling. Today, we're going to talk about, the importance of trialing a new idea, a new product, a new management technique on your farm. Walk us through, how do you broach this subject with your growers?
Yeah, definitely. So we have what's called PKPs, and they're product knowledge plots. And I love them. I personally love them. It's an opportunity for growers to see what's out there, a competitor, plus what's coming down the pipeline. So it's a firsthand chance for them to see something that's not available commercially. So I think, why not see what's up and coming before anybody else does? I know I definitely want to put my hand if I'm able to see something before anybody else does, because I feel really extra important then. So it's just a great opportunity to, get a firsthand feel of how something works in your area.
Now, and this is, of course, done on your farm with your equipment and your management. Is that how this works?
Exactly. So I know it's really nice to replicate all these, very small trials, and those are absolutely important. I don't want to downplay those, but I do think that when a producer is able to do it themselves with their own equipment and their own farming practices, it just is a really good opportunity to see how, for farmer A, you might not get the same results as farmer B, who's using different equipment or maybe has different farming practices that works or is suitable for them.
Mm-hmm. And of course, field history, all those sorts of things are going to play a role in how a certain product performs on your farm. What sort of support would a farmer get if they're interested in doing one of these trials? How do you sit down with them and sort of walk them through what's expected, or how does that work?
Yeah, for sure. So what happens is we usually sit down, we go through what the product mix would be, so how many different entries they would have, and then also kind of the expectations. So, you don't just put it in the ground and leave it. It's important to see what it comes out of the ground like. So you have me, I'm kind of annoying for people who do PKPs because you have to see me numerous times throughout the season. But, it's important to see that plant stand count. It's important to see how it reacts during flowering season. It's important to see if there's differences with disease pressure, things like that. And then also harvest management. So I want to be in there in the fall also to see, what the maturity was like, how it compares to our current lineup. And then, of course, yield is king when it comes to that at the end. And we want to make sure that we capture all of that data also.
Mm-hmm. So question about on the data side. So when you're taking yields, what are you using? Are you using weigh wagons to measure this off? Or are you using mapping? Yeah. How does that work?
We use weigh wagons. You'll see me trucking around Northwest Sask with my handy dandy Pioneer weigh wagon. It's my favorite time of year. I'll bring out pizza to the field and some pop, and we will weigh it off with the weigh wagon to make sure that everything's accurate across the board.
Now, okay, so to me, it sounds like you're very busy doing these things at certain times of year, which sounds really exciting, but also it is a lot. So that I think is a pretty key thing here. Farmers wouldn't be alone on this. They have a partner with you or whoever their rep might be to do these trials for the season.
Yes, definitely. There's it's definitely a team collaboration. And if you do sign up to do one of these, I'm not throwing you to the wolves. You definitely have support from Pioneer. And we want to help you all the way from seeding all the way up to harvest for sure.
Okay, so farmers who are curious, I'm going to guess there's still time. Let us know if there still is. How would they go about finding out how to set one of these up? Is there still enough time for this seeding season?
Well, I like to, I'm a planner, so I do like to have things planned, before spring typically, but that doesn't mean that there isn't opportunity to still do some side-by-sides for us. The best thing for a grower to do is if they are interested in one of these, to contact their local Pioneer hybrid rep, and we will get them set up. It might not be a full product knowledge plot, but we definitely have availability of side-by-sides and, maybe multiple hybrids to put with what their existing plan is. We will definitely work with them to make sure that they get a type of trial on their field because, data is so important and we want to make sure that we can capture as much data as physically possible.
Absolutely. And then it cues it up for next year. You'll be off to the races for next year as well. Yeah.
And nothing I like better than a repeat customer who wants to do trials again the next year because that just, that gets me excited.
And it's always easier the next year, everybody. So get in the swing of things. Yeah. All right. Okay, Jenna, thanks so much for joining me here on the Farmer Rapid Fire here on RealAg Radio. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lyndsey.
Well, that's all the time we have for today here on RealAg Radio on Rural Radio, Channel 147, Sirius XM. I am your host, of course, Lyndsey Smith. Tomorrow is Friday. Friday means the Issues panel. Yes, we took a little break last week because of our special show with Cargill, but we will be back tomorrow. So Sean Haney's back, Kelvin Hepner's back. I will be there. We probably have somebody else. We'll figure it out. I promise. That's how we run this thing. Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow with the Issues panel. Of course, if you'd like to get in touch, we'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and call that feedback line 1-855-776-6147. Of course, you can find us across social media. Wherever you are, we are probably there too. Put us into the search, Real Agriculture. You'll find us. Head on over to YouTube. We're on Twitter. We share all of our content across all our platforms, so you can find it all there. And yeah, you can also zip me an email, and I really do mean it. If you've got somebody you'd like to voluntold to be part of the Farmer Rapid Fire, we'd love to hear that too. You can zip me an email, lsmith@realagriculture.com. Tomorrow, the Issues panel, as I mentioned, lots to cover. We did have some economic data come out. We've had that, as I talked about yesterday on the show, a lot of discussion on the interoperability and companies working together, so that's high on the list. A few other things that'll probably be up for discussion, I would think, is 4-H Canada. So you've heard about it here on the show. I hope you went over to RealAgriculture.com and read the story where the federal government is walking back its support for 4-H Canada. Now, it does bring up the question, when we think about what role 4-H Canada has for, not just rural youth. I mean, I think 4-H has worked very hard in recent years to open up, the interest to urban students as well. But if we think about, as an industry that realistically, we need more people interested in agriculture, not fewer. We need more, and we need them interested from a younger age so that they choose agriculture in whatever form or fashion that might be. We need more people interested. So definitely going to be part of the conversation tomorrow. All right. Thank you so much again for joining me. I will be back for the Issues panel tomorrow, right here, 4:30 Eastern on Rural Radio, Channel 147. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you for downloading this episode of the RealAg Radio podcast, brought to you by Barricade 2 Herbicide from FMC. Use Barricade 2 Herbicide for consistent, powerful control of the toughest in-crop weeds without harming your wheat, oats, or barley crop. Barricade 2 Herbicide. Tough on weeds, gentle on crops.